Welcome to Tech Talks with Kinsoft.
Glad to be here for this one.
So I want you to put yourself in a really specific scenario for a minute. Just imagine you're sitting down for a meal at a really premium restaurant.
Oh, nice.
Right. The ambiance is perfect. The lighting is just right. Maybe you're at the Meat and Wine Co. or Hunter and Barrel. You're looking over the menu, completely relaxed, anticipating this great evening.
Setting the mood.
Exactly. But what you can't see, what is entirely invisible to you as you're ordering your steak, is that behind the scenes, a high-stakes digital extortion plot is unfolding in real time.
Yeah, the contrast there is jarring. The front of house is operating flawlessly, pouring wine, serving meals, but the back office is quite literally fighting for the survival of the company's digital infrastructure.
It's crazy.
It's this split-screen reality that, most consumers are completely oblivious to.
And that is our exact mission for today's analysis. We are examining a breaking cyber incident that has hit the Australian hospitality sector right at its core.
It's a big one.
It really is. We're looking at a recent attack on Seagrass Boutique Hospitality Group. We've got reporting from Cyber Daily, specifically an exclusive piece by Daniel Croft from February 17th, 2026, outlining what we know so far.
Yeah, Croft's piece gives us a really solid timeline to work from.
Right, so we're going to unpack who was hit, the immediate triage that followed, the group claiming responsibility, and the frankly terrifying extortion playbook they use.
Which is becoming way too common, honestly.
Too common. Let's start with the target itself. Because Seagrass Boutique Hospitality Group isn't just a single standalone restaurant. They're based in Rhodes, New South Wales, and they are the operational muscle behind several major dining brands across the country.
Yeah, they manage a really significant portfolio. Like you mentioned, brands like the Meat and Wine Co. and Hunter and Barrel, and they rely on this complex, interconnected IT infrastructure.
It's not just a cash register.
No, not at all. When you operate at that scale, you aren't just managing reservations, you're managing massive supply chains, payroll for thousands of employees, and this continuous stream of transactional data.
So, according to the timeline we have from the reporting, on February 12, 2026, Seagrass officially identified a cybersecurity incident.
Okay.
They released a statement on their website confirming unauthorized access to what they called, and I'm quoting here, part of their IT network.
Back heart.
Yeah. Now, their immediate response was standard procedure. They activated their incident response protocols, brought in external cybersecurity experts, isolated the affected system, and launched an investigation to figure out what data was impacted.
All the right moves on day one.
Right. And then crickets. When Cyber Daily reached out for further commentary, Seagrass declined to say anything else.
Yep, standard legal posture.
But I want to look closely at that phrasing part of their network. My cynical alarm bells usually ring when I hear that.
Oh, for sure.
It feels a bit like a restaurant manager locking the front doors and bringing in security guards, all while assuring the patrons that the problem is completely contained to the lobby.
Just the lobby, nothing to see here.
Right. You always have to wonder if the burglar's actually already in the kitchen. I'd imagine that asserting only part of the network is affected is, more about corporate PR trying to downplay the breach than genuine containment.
Well, it's tricky. The reality of incident response triage is heavily obscured by the fog of war. In the first 48 to 72 hours of a breach, visibility is incredibly poor.
They just don't know yet.
Exactly. The incident response team's absolute first priority is isolation. They are frantically severing connections between different systems.
Like cutting the wires, basically.
Pretty much. Disconnecting the reservations database from the payment processing system, isolating the HR files from the general staff network. They do this to stop lateral movement.
Because the attackers usually start somewhere small, right?
Right. Attackers rarely land exactly where the valuable data is. They might gain initial access through a compromised employee email account or a vulnerable web server. From there, they use tools to scrape credentials, escalate their privileges, and move laterally across the network.
So when Seagrass says part of our network, they might genuinely only know about that initial entry point.
Yeah.
And they're just hoping they severed the connections fast enough to stop the bleeding.
They're reporting the facts as they understand them at that precise moment. But from a communications standpoint, it is also deliberately careful language.
Right, the lawyers are in the room.
Oh, the lawyers are running the room.
Yep.
Legally and strategically, organizations are required to keep their statements tightly scoped. If a company announces they've fully contained an attack to one server, and then forensic investigators later discover the attackers had been quietly siphoning off gigabytes of data for 3 weeks.
They look completely incompetent.
Worse than incompetent, they open themselves up to severe regulatory fines and shareholder lawsuits. So declining further comment while the investigation is ongoing isn't just a PR tactic. It's the legally mandated posture advised by their external counsel.
Wow, okay, so that silence from the victim is legally necessary, but it creates this massive information vacuum. And in the modern ransomware landscape, threat actors are more than happy to fill that vacuum with noise.
They love the spotlight.
They really do. On that exact same day, February 12th, a group proudly took credit for this incident. Enter the Kairos Ransomware gang.
Kairos.
Yeah, they placed Seagrass right on their dark web leak site, and they alleged that they exfiltrated about 50 gigabytes of data.
50 gigs. That's substantial.
It's massive. Now, the reporting cites threat intelligence firm CYJX, which paints a really interesting picture of Kairos. They're active on several Russian-language hacking forums.
Classic stomping grounds.
Right. But what really stands out is that they don't appear to be linked to other major hacking syndicates. They operate as an independent entity, and they're relatively new. Like, they were first observed in November 2024.
Wow, okay.
Yet, since then, they have claimed at least 70 victims.
70
That's
since late 2024.
Yeah. To me, that doesn't sound like a sprawling traditional crime syndicate. It sounds like a highly efficient, automated operation run like a slick tech startup.
That's a great way to put it.
Are we looking at a highly efficient, automated operation or just reckless digital smash and grab thieves? It feels like they must be outsourcing the hard work of breaking into these networks so they can focus purely on the extortion.
Your intuition is spot on. That points directly to how the modern cybercrime supply chain functions. You don't need a massive organization of elite coders to have an elite impact anymore.
Really?
Yeah. When CYJX notes that Kairos is active on Russian language forums, that tells us how they're acquiring their targets. These forums operate as digital bazaars for initial access brokers.
Initial access brokers, IABs.
Right, IABs. An initial access broker might be a low-level hacker, or honestly, perhaps even an automated script that just scans the internet for vulnerable remote desktop protocol ports or unpatched VPNs.
Just jiggling digital doorknobs.
Exactly. Once the broker compromises a network and steals an administrator password, they don't deploy ransomware themselves. They sell that active credential on the forum for a few hundred or maybe a few $1,000s.
So Kairos is literally just browsing a menu of compromised companies, buying the master keys, and walking right through the front door.
Yep. They bypass the time-consuming reconnaissance phase entirely. Claiming 70 victims in roughly a year and a half indicates a highly streamlined business model.
They just buy, encrypt, extort.
Buy access, log in, immediately begin mapping the network to find the most sensitive data, exfiltrate it like the 50 gigs from Seagrass, deploy their encryption malware, and trigger the ransom demand.
They aren't lingering.
No, they aren't lingering in these networks for months trying to maintain stealth. The fact that they operate independently means they're agile. They don't suffer from the bureaucratic overhead that slowed down some of the older, massive cybercrime cartels. They are built for volume and speed.
Volume, speed, and ruthless psychological pressure.
Oh, absolutely.
Because once Kairos buys that access and walks in, they start the clock immediately. The article details their playbook. And, I mean, it is a masterclass in forcing a victim's hand.
It's pure extortion.
According to Kairos' own leak site, they give victims a strict timeline. Exactly 7 days to respond to their demands.
7 days is nothing in incident response time.
Nothing. If no agreement is reached after that week, Kairos publishes an initial leak post to prove they actually have the goods. But the escalation tactics are what really caught my attention.
Yeah, this is the scary part.
They don't just threaten the company. They threaten to actively notify the victim's partners, their competitors, and their customers directly.
Directly to the customers.
Yeah. I have to read the exact quote from Kairos because the wording is just so calculated. They tell the victim, quote, "This could lead to legal actions, termination of contracts, reputational damage, stock value drops, and potential closure of your organization."
They're laying it all out.
If we look at this dynamically, it's a hostage situation.
Right.
But the kidnapper isn't just holding a weapon to the victim's head in a locked room.
Right.
The kidnapper is actively calling the victim's suppliers and top clients, actively trying to ruin their business relationships before the deadline even expires.
Yeah. This is the operationalization of multi-tiered extortion. In the early days of ransomware, attacks were single-tiered. The hackers encrypted your files, and you paid for the decryption key.
And if you had a backup, you were fine.
Exactly. If you had a good offline backup, you could just wipe your systems, restore the data, and ignore the demand entirely.
A minor inconvenience.
Right. But then attackers realized backups were ruining their business model, so they moved to double extortion. They stole the data before encrypting it, threatening to leak it publicly.
Okay.
But now, groups like Kairos utilize triple extortion. They encrypt the files, they steal the data, and they actively weaponize that data to harass stakeholders.
Which renders even the best data backups completely irrelevant. I mean, you can restore your network in 2 hours, but you can't unleak an email database.
You really can't. The psychology of that 7-day ticking clock is designed to induce panic at the board level.
I can imagine.
Imagine being a C-suite executive at a company like Seagrass. On day 1, your technical team is just trying to figure out which servers are offline. By day 3, you realize the attackers didn't just lock the systems, they exfiltrated data.
And by day 5...
By day 5, you're trying to conduct a forensic analysis to determine what data was taken. But forensic analysis of a complex network takes weeks, not days. You are effectively blind.
And the entire time, Kairos is holding a megaphone, threatening to scream to your business partners.
Exactly.
That specific list of threats, like stock value drops and termination of contracts, it's heavily targeted at the fears of the C-suite. They're bypassing the IT department entirely and aiming straight for the financial viability of the business.
They are attacking the mechanisms of trust that allow the business to function at all. They want to force the leadership team into a state of purely emotional decision-making.
Make them panic.
Right. 7 days is barely enough time to retain a specialized incident response firm and alert your cyber insurance carrier, let alone negotiate a multi-million-dollar extortion demand.
It's impossible.
The attackers know the company cannot possibly map their full legal and reputational exposure in that time frame, which makes paying the ransom seem like the only way to stop the bleeding.
Wow. Taking this playbook and applying it locally, we have to look at Kairos' track record in the Australian market.
Right, because Seagrass isn't their first target down here.
No, the reporting notes that prior to Seagrass, Kairos' most recent Australian victim was the Heidelberg Golf Club down in Melbourne.
Okay, quite a different scale.
Exactly. In that attack, Kairos claimed to have stolen 24.6 gigabytes of data. Now, 24 gigs might seem small if you're downloading a high-definition movie, but when we're talking about text documents, spreadsheets, member logs, and financial records.
That is a mountain of information.
It really is. But seeing them jump from a golf club in Melbourne to a massive boutique hospitality group in New South Wales makes me think about target selection.
How so?
Well, first, a golf club in Melbourne, now a massive hospitality group in NSW. Is Kairos specifically hunting Australian leisure and hospitality brands? Or is this just a crime of opportunity where they cast a wide net?
It's a mix, but hospitality is a uniquely valuable target.
It seems like it. It's not just about stealing credit card numbers anymore, right? Those are heavily encrypted and regulated.
Exactly. The real value is in the massive transient workforce data and the rich profiles of high-net-worth clients they hold. Hospitality organizations share specific structural characteristics that make them highly susceptible to this multi-tiered playbook.
Like what?
First, they operate on a model of immediate availability. If a manufacturing plant suffers a ransomware attack and the assembly line goes down for 2 days, they can run double shifts over the weekend to meet their production quota.
The revenue is delayed, but not necessarily lost.
Exactly. But hospitality doesn't work that way. If a restaurant's reservation, point of sale, and kitchen management systems are locked on a Friday and Saturday night, that revenue is gone forever.
You can't double sell a steak on Tuesday to make up for Saturday.
No, you can't. The disruption is instant, and it is entirely visible to the public.
Right. If you walk into Hunter & Barrel
Mm.
and the host tells you they can't access your reservation, can't seat you, and can't process electronic payments, you're going to turn around and walk out.
And probably post about it.
Oh, for sure. The reputational damage happens in real time on the restaurant floor.
Beyond the operational downtime, the data architecture of hospitality is just a goldmine for extortionists.
Because of the customer profiles.
Yes. They hold deep repositories of customer data. Names, phone numbers, email addresses, reservation histories, dietary requirements. Moving from a single entity like the Heidelberg Golf Club to a multi-venue group like Seagrass multiplies the scale of that data exponentially.
Which brings us back to the 50 gigabytes. Cyber Daily reported that for the Seagrass incident, Kairos is alleging they exfiltrated about 50 gigabytes of data.
Yeah.
50 gigabytes. If 24 gigabytes from a golf club is a mountain, 50 gigabytes from a national hospitality group is an entire mountain range.
It's staggering.
That is tens of millions of individual text records, JSON files, and database logs. It likely includes the HR databases for all those venues too, containing employee tax file numbers, banking details, and scanned identification documents.
Which creates an incredibly potent leverage point.
Yeah.
The attackers don't even need to know exactly what is in those 50 gigabytes.
Just the threat of it is enough.
The sheer volume is enough to convince a corporate board that sensitive customer and employee information is at risk. It's the ultimate stress test of a company's data governance.
Meaning?
If an organization hasn't segmented their network properly, or if they have retained customer data longer than legally necessary, the threat of having that data weaponized against them within 7 days is catastrophic.
This brings us to a really crucial question about the endgame of these attacks. We have a clear tension playing out across the economy.
Right.
On one side, you have popular high-end hospitality brands, places built entirely around customer experience and trust. And on the other side, you have the invisible cutthroat machinery of digital extortion.
It's a brutal clash.
Kairos is running a proven track record of hitting Australian targets, using a ticking clock to force rushed decisions, and demonstrating a willingness to burn a company's reputation to the ground by directly contacting partners.
Yeah.
The threat landscape has fundamentally shifted. It's no longer just about IT teams restoring servers. It's about managing an active, aggressive PR crisis where the hackers hold all the cards. Which leaves us with a critical question regarding how we, as everyday consumers, fit into this ecosystem.
It's a really important angle.
As threat actors increasingly bypass the company and threaten to contact customers directly, how does that shift the psychological burden of a breach?
I think it forces a dangerous shift in where the public assigns blame. Think about it. When a consumer receives an extortion email directly from a ransomware gang, stating that their favorite local restaurant failed to protect their data and that their personal details will be sold unless the restaurant pays up, the consumer's anger rarely stays focused on the anonymous hackers.
Oh, they get mad at the restaurant.
Exactly. The immediate emotional reaction is to lose trust in the business itself. The threat actors are counting on this.
They know it'll work.
They are weaponizing the consumer's fear to apply secondary pressure on the victim organization. It's a psychological vulnerability in the business-consumer relationship, and unfortunately, it's a vulnerability that cannot simply be patched with a software update.
That is definitely something to think about the next time you are handing over your details for a dinner reservation. Or, the next time you hear a company insist that only part of their network was impacted.
Always question the part.
Always. The invisible pipelines that run our physical experiences are under constant siege. If you want to ensure your own organization's digital doors are properly locked and that there isn't a broker already selling access to your network kitchen, you need to have these conversations now, long before a 7-day countdown ever begins.
Proactive defense is everything.
It really is. So head over to www.kinsoft.com.au to discuss your security and IT needs with the experts. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the invisible front lines of cybersecurity. Stay curious and stay secure.